Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today we're talking about some overrated albums of the 70s. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists we put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a little thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know we try to keep everything mostly kind of positive. But I figured this would be kind of a fun way to kind of look back on some albums of the 70s and maybe poke a little fun at it. The ones I'm going to talk about on my list aren't necessarily bad albums. I just don't think they're quite as great as people really make them out to be. Of course, like always, it's just our opinion. You can always drop us a comment down below. Let us know what some of your most overrated 70s albums are. I know this guy's going to pick one to try to get under my skin, but...
no, because it's like you said, it's not a bad album by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it's overrated. Yeah. That's all.
So the first one I was going to talk about is Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. I think it is a really good album.
It's Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust.
Okay, fine. Everyone out here knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Yeah. It's one of the longest album titles of the 70s. But anyway, it is a really good album. But people kind of hold it up as this, one of the greatest albums of the 70s. And like I said, it's got some really good tracks on it. I think it's got some duds on it also. I think they're largely, I'd say at least a third of the album I could probably do without. And maybe that's why I don't really kind of hold it up to the high standards that a lot of other people do. But I think it is still a good album.
Yeah, no, I think it actually, for me, it fell short of what I think David Bowie's original vision for it was. It was meant to be like a whole side project kind of thing. Like it was going to be multiple albums with a band.
It was going ongoing theme.
On kind of an ongoing theme. And it just kind of fell short of his vision, and it shows, I think, in the album. But I've always loved the album, but I wouldn't say it's his best album.
Yeah.
So for mine, we'll get it out of the way. It's Dark Side of the Moon. I'm sorry. It's a good album.
It's the one that's hanging right above him.
Yeah, it's a good album, but it's not in my opinion, it's not the great album that it's...
I think it's the greatest album ever recorded, but...
No, I can't... Yeah, I just can't see that. It's great. It's a great album, but it's not the greatest album.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, I think it gets most of its... Aside from people who are truly fans, who are passionate about Pink Floyd and passionate about the album, overall, I think it just has this reputation of being the stoner album.
I don't think it really does though, because if there's one Pink Floyd album from the early part of their career, that's the one album that isn't a stoner album. There's no psychedelic anything out there.
But you've got the people who don't really understand that. They'll always go to Dark Side of the Moon. That's why you see Grateful Dead stickers along with the Prism, sticker on a car, because it's just kind of wrapped up in that stoner thing.
Yeah, and it really shouldn't be.
No, but it is, and I think that plays a big part in that.
But there are a lot of people out there like you. I hear about it all the time on social media. People that think the album is overrated.
I'll never say that it's a bad album. I'll never say there's a bad song on the album. It's a good album. It's an album I enjoy listening to. I just don't think it deserves the huge amount of accolades that are dumped upon it.
It does. I think kind of along those same lines though is Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. It's a good album. But I always find it kind of odd because a lot of people really hold it up as one of the greatest albums of the 70s. And I don't even know if I don't even think it's one of the Rolling Stones' top 3 albums of the 70s, really. But I mean,
I'm not sure it's one top 3 albums of any of their catalog. It's a good album. I wouldn't put it that high. Maybe for top 5 or 10.
No, but it's an album. For me, it's kind of along the same lines as Ziggy Stardust, where it's got some really great tracks on there. But I can kind of do without a quarter of the album, maybe a third of the album. It's overall, like I said, good album. I don't want to hate on it too much, but for me, I just think it's really kind of overrated when you're holding it up as one of the greatest of all time, kind of like your opinion of Dark Side of the Moon.
So my next one, I'm going to keep it short because I don't have anything positive to say about this album, but it is a hugely popular album, and it's Hotel California by the Eagles. I do not like
Another
the
one
Eagles.
of my favorites.
I do not like the Eagles. I think they are the Nickelback of the 70s, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
It is. I think it's an album that's definitely overplayed. I think that's, and it's often held up kind of like along the same lines as Exile Main Street, where it's held up as this great thing. I think it is the best Eagles album, which
would be unfortunate if that's the best they can do.
I think it's the most complete Eagles album also, and but I can see where some of the complaints come from for that album. So for my last album, I got to pick the one that I love picking on because I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people love this album, and I understand why it is an influential album, but I dislike this band so much.
Oh, so this is the same thing with me. Okay.
Yes, and that is Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
For a long time, I've been calling the Sex Pistols the Backstreet Boys of punk because they are a fake band that was put together, and unlike the Monkees, where the Monkees at least accepted what they were doing, the Sex Pistols just turned this whole publicity stunt into basically a career. They only released one album. The only member of the band that was actually a really good musician was kicked out of the band before they finished recording the album anyway. So Glenn Matlock was their original bass player, replaced by Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious didn't even know how to play bass. It was this whole big debacle in the band. But anyway, the album itself, I understand, is iconic it because of how popular it got. But as far as like late 70s punk goes, it's not a great album. There's so many other albums I would put ahead of that one album. When I just recently
The Clash and Ramones, by far, any of their albums are...
I just recently did a video talking about some of the best punk albums of all time. A lot of those comments had this album listed in there. And it's just one that when I look at it and kind of go over that album, man, I just can't... I just don't see the appeal to that it has.
I agree with that. So for my last one, I don't know if this will get any hate. It might not. It may. I don't know. I don't like the artist. Frampton Comes Alive. What is it with this album? I've listened to it. It's not great. I mean, he's a great performer. I'll give him that. But his songs aren't that good. The songs are he could not sell his album when those songs were done in the studio.
Yeah.
His studio albums were not selling. The only album he could get a hit out of was Frampton Comes Alive.
I will say that I think Peter Frampton is one of those artists where he's better live. His live stuff is good. He's not able to replicate that in the studio.
Which is fine, but I didn't think the songs were that great either.
I think Frampton Comes Alive has a couple of really good songs on there. It's got a lot of stuff where it's just kind of okay to me. So
yeah.
But you're right, it is kind of held up there as one of the great live albums of the 70s. And you're right. I can see some of the hate that he gets.
Well, I was afraid I was going to get hate for saying I didn't like it, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From me, or...?
No, from the audience.
Oh, some people out there, I'm sure there might be. Throw some comments down below towards the end.
The audience might just hate me, period. I don't know, but, they might throw hate out there for that, too. I don't know.
I think it's an okay album. Do I think it's really overrated? I think it might be... I don't know if I could really call it overrated, because I don't think there's that many people... that really especially nowadays,
may not know it, but
as
I remember it was always talked about when I was a kid. Like everyone talked about that album.
I still see people talk about it again.
Yeah,
Well, that's all we got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below and do two things. Let us know what you think are the most overrated albums of the 70s are, and also let Ian know how wrong he is about the Dark Side of the Moon.
I was going to say, let us know what do you think are the worst albums of the 70s and why it is Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. But let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.